When I look back and I look at the lives of my kids, I realize that there is a vacuum that has been created that is going to take a lot of grace and wisdom to bridge that gap. And this was what created the vacuum. I was never there. I provided. I paid their school fees. I made sure they had everything they needed, but I was never there. And I'll go. And even when I come, most times I'm tired, so I have to sleep. And by the time I'm up in the morning, they've left for school. Because I wake up and pray at midnight and go back to sleep. So by the time I'm up, they've left for school. By the time they come back, I'm in the office. When I come back from the office, they are asleep. When they wake up, I'm asleep. And it went on for many years. And I realized just recently by revelation that I was an absentee father.
Shalom, shalom team safeguarding. I pray mko salama, mnaendelea vizuri. God is being good to you and your family. Mimi pia nimeko blessed, naendelea vizuri. I was just watching today kwa Facebook nikakutana na hii post ambayo I've shared a lot of videos about it. How parents should think vizuri sana, fikiria vizuri sana kuhusu working too much. Na sijasema kufanya kazi ni vibaya. Being in ministry too much. Wewe ni pastor, wewe ni bishop, wewe ni apostle, evangelist. Hakuna mtu hakujui kwa village, hakuna mtu hakujui kwa in your country. You are known worldwide. You are a great minister. That's all fantastic. But nimekuwa nikisema mara mingi kama safeguarding officer, mothers and fathers are vehicles that God uses to bring children forth to the world. Watoto huwa hawajizai. Watoto huwa wanazaliwa na wazazi wao. Na kuzaliwa ni mama na baba. Over 90, whatever percent you want to say. I know kuna watoto wanazaliwa through whatever, but wote wanapitia through mama. I don't want to go into the intricacies of, I had whatever fertility, no. But I'm saying almost 99% ya wale watoto wanazaliwa, they have mom and dad. But it is fundamental, especially kama wewe ni baba, because over 90% of the time, utakuta ya kwamba most dad are what we call absent fathers. Absent. And what I mean by absent is that this man is not absent because he does not want his children. No, this man is absent because he is engaged in business. Anahakikisha kwamba watoto wake hakuna kitu wanakosa. Watoto wake hakuna, they are in best schools. They are going to best universities. Wengine they are educating abroad, different schools. You know, all sort of things. They are in boarding. They have everything they want, just not their father. A lot of fathers are absent fathers. And this is not an African thing. This is a whole worldwide thing. Doesn't matter whether you are from what continent or what continent. A lot of men are absent fathers. Their children are brought up by their mothers and nannies. There are people that mpaka watoto wako wako na dereva wa kuwapeleka shule. They have everything they need, just not their father. Because their father is always in meetings. Their fathers is anafanya kazi abroad. Anafanya kazi kwa mkutano moja after another, kwa ndege, all over the place. When you come home, you are tired. When you come home, you don't have time because hata kwa nyumba kuna ofisi. You have to speak to all different CEOs and business associates and managers who do your job and businesses and people you run their business for, all sort of things, to the detriment of that you also don't have much time for your wife. So your wife is always lacking. And guys, I know you know what I'm talking about. Then people start wondering, why is it that marriages are failing? People have needs. So, but on this issue of absent fathers, it's fantastic to make money and do all these business deals and all that. But never forget what we call time for your children. Children love to have their father. Wanapenda sana vile unaona ukishika watoto wako unawarusha juu na washika wakati wakiwa wadogo. They see you. Kama ni vijana wa boys unawapeleka wanakiki mpira kidogo, wanaenda swimming, unakimbizana nao huko kwa park. You don't have to have a lot of money. Unaweza tu kuchukua githeri, mpaki githeri kwa paper bag, kwa bag. Weka githeri kwa juala. Endeni kwa park mkule ama mkule malenge. Me and malenge, we don't cross paths. I ate so much malenge when I was young. But anyway, wewe chukueni malenge zenu ama nduma, chukueni ugali kama nyinyi ni watu wa ugali, muhogo. Whatever it is, modokoi. Take rice, take some fruits, bananas, whatever it is. Go to the park and just have some time. Kandeni camping, kwendeni kwa msitu, play kidogo, peleka watoto kwa msitu waone kima, waone nyani kidogo hapo na birds. Spend some time with your children. It's fundamental. It's necessary. You have heard about this man of God.
As I have grown and maturing, I checked a lot of things, and I realized certain errors I made, unconscious errors, when I was growing up. Married very, very young at the age of 23. Didn't understand a lot of things. Ministry was tough in those days. So my life was always on the road. I was always gone. I was telling them about Bishop Ben. I used to go 6 weeks, sometimes 8 weeks, to North America, South America, Asia. Travel for days to be able to make ends meet, to provide and take care of the family, because the church couldn't take care of me. And I learned very early not to depend on tithes and offering and depend on people, because that will wound you. I had one experience and I said, no more. I'm not depending on anybody but God. And I realized when I look back and I look at the lives of my kids, I realize that there is a vacuum that has been created that is going to take a lot of grace and wisdom to bridge that gap. And this was what created the vacuum. I was never there. I provided. I paid their school fees. I made sure they had everything they needed, but I was never there. And I'll go. And even when I come, most times I'm tired, so I have to sleep. And by the time I'm up in the morning, they've left for school. Because I wake up and pray at midnight and go back to sleep. So by the time I'm up, they've left for school. By the time they come back, I'm in the office. When I come back from the office, they are asleep. When they wake up, I'm asleep. And it went on for many years. And I realized just recently by revelation that I was an absentee father. That even though I loved them and I cared for them, I lacked understanding of many things. That is not just provision and providing, but you need to have that emotional connection. And it wasn't there. So they have to raise themselves, and they got to learn to be survivors and create all kinds of things in order for them to survive and to fill that void. But nobody can fill those void, and nothing can fill that void but the love of a father. And it is taking a lot of work to try and bridge that gap. Yesterday I took my grandchildren into the pool and I started doing aerobics with them in the pool. And as I was dancing with them and exercising with them in the pool, I realized that that was what I should have done when my children were like their age. And let me say this to you. Let me say this to fathers and mothers. I know you mean well, and I know you love your kids. And I know you got to provide ends meet. And you got to go out there and work and fight, because life is tough, and life is not fair, and life does not give you what you desire or expect by what you fight for. But in the mix of fighting for everything to provide for them, make a little time every now and then to bond with them, because you're going to need it. Because if you don't bond with them now, there'll come a time and there'll be such a vacuum between you and them that it's going to take a lot to fill it. One of my sons, he don't call me dad. I've done everything to say, listen, I'm not saying, call me dad. And he keeps unconsciously calls me sir, because he never saw me as a dad as he was growing up. He saw me as sir. He saw me as this anointed, gifted, powerful man of God, but not a dad, because I was never around to play with him, to do things with him, so he can see me as a dad and a friend. And I'm trying to make it up, to work at it, to bridge the gap. And he takes everything you can take, you can think of. He takes every grace. He takes every humility. He takes all your humanity. Madula kasa, wasalahatu kifalu salas.
I bless God that you have watched that clip. This is not just a normal evangelist. This is an Archbishop, a renowned worldwide Archbishop Duncan Williams, mtu ambaye ameheshimika. But you have heard vile amesema, he was an absentee father. Mtoto wake anamuitanga saa. Kwa sababu gani? Because he was never there. So the child does not have that relationship, and therefore he cannot call his own dad father. Anamuita saa because yeye anamjua kama mtu wa biashara. My dad will always come home with other business associates, men of God. It's always about business, making money. The most beautiful thing that a father can do, you must first take care of your own family. If you cannot take care of your own family, how can you take care of the family of God? Si kwanza umalizie yako, si ufanye yako. Take care of your own family first. Taking care of your own family, unahakikisha watoto wako wako sawa, wanacheza, wanakujua wewe kama baba. They are not even supposed to know you as a pastor. Because wakikujua kama pastor itakuwa ni shida, because pastor is not somebody that is just supposed to be messed about. Pastor ni mtumishi wa Mungu, mtu ambaye anaheshimika, ako na heshima zake. Na kama mtoto anakujua wewe kama pastor ama reverend ama apostle, then they cannot even be open to you. They cannot play with you, because that name pastor, whatever that position, comes with reverence. And reverence ni siongei hapa ya Mungu, naongea tu hiyo heshima ya mtumishi wa Mungu. Because you speak, where you sit and you declare the oracles of God. So it's not a small thing. So mtoto hafai kukujua, mtoto wako hafai kukujua kama pastor. Yes, ukifika kwa madhabahu akuwe na hiyo heshima, and that is teachings that we teach our children. Nikiingia kwa madhabahu, wakati mnaniona nimevaa robe na nini, when I'm under the anointing, I'm not just your ordinary dad. I'm now in a position of ministration na Mungu ananitumia. So call me there. That's my dad, Pastor Jeff. But kuna hiyo dad, that's my dad, Pastor Jeff. Mtoto hata wakati anaongea huko nje anasema, my dad is a pastor. Sinasikia, they are connecting two things. My dad, so they recognize and they know that wewe ni baba yao, is sasa what you are. You're just not only their dad, but you're also a pastor, meaning you're a man of God. My dad is a pastor. That is the most beautiful thing a child can say. But when a child is saying, Pastor Jeff, there's a worry. Na wewe ndio umemzaa huyo mtoto, angalia, anza kuangalia what is going on. Anza kuangalia what is going on. Something is going wrong. Tena sana. Na haraka tengeneza. So this man of God has said he's found it very hard and difficult to rectify what he done so many times, akifikiria yeye anataka ku touch everywhere in the world, only that he was not touching his own family. His own children did not know him. Walilelewa na mama yao na watu wa kufanya kazi. So tafadhali, I'm asking families, especially husbands, do not be an absent father. Do not be an absent father. Be there for your children. Wapeleke wacheze. Cheze na wao, warushe. Chezeni hide and seek. Kimbizaneni. It is good because those are your children. Let them know you. Now don't forget, I've always continued to sing time and time again, ya kwamba children do very well through observation. Sio vile unawasomesha ama vile wanasomesha huko university. They look at you. So tafadhali show your boy child that kwamba it's good for you to be there for your wife. It's good for you to be there for your sisters. It's good for you to be there for the community. Teach them these things because they are the next generation. So I hope that this video has helped us to understand that money is not everything. But kama unataka kufanya kazi na Mungu, jua ya kwamba Mungu anaanzia na familia. This is why even when you go to the Bible and you look at, if a man desire to have the office of a bishop, ni sawa. But let them, kuna conditions hapo. Let them be a man of one wife. Let them be able to take care of their own children. Watoto wake wakuwe kona discipline. Yeye mwenyewe amewatosheleza watoto wake. Sio uanze kwenda kukimbiza kutosheleza watoto wa huko watu wengine kanisani. Uende kutouch ministries worldwide na watoto wako wewe wenyewe, they don't know you. They are calling you sir. It's wrong. There are also women that are like this. Women that are in position of ministry and all that. And many marriages have fallen apart. Kwa sababu sasa wewe ulienda kuingia kanisani, ukaanza kusema sasa you and your husband's dreams are drifting away. No. That one, me myself, sitaki kuingia sana hiyo laini, but people who say they were married for 15, 20 years, 30 years, they started well when they did not have church. Then they started ministry. Then all of a sudden, after 20 years, they started saying that their ministry is drifting away. God is showing them different directions. Hiyo sijui ni Mungu gani unaongea kuhusu yeye. Huyo Mungu alikuanzia na akaanzia pamoja sawa wakati mko na mega church. You have a lot of millions in the bank. Sasa the same God has started to give you different visions. Your husband and you now do not agree and do not align. Come on now. Which God is that you're talking about? God does not put asunder. What God has put together, he does not put asunder. He says even no man should put asunder. No church should put asunder. So why would the same God that blessed you, now that you have a big ministry, now that you have a lot of money, all of a sudden you are starting to say that you can hear it from in your spirit. You have seen, you have prayed about it, and all this rubbish. That now your vision is going different ways. What vision? Have you forgotten the first vision that you had when you got married? How comes you are married 20 years and the vision was the same? Now that you have different businesses, you have mega churches, you have thousands and millions of followers following you. All of a sudden, now your husband is no longer your husband. Now your wife is no longer your wife. You are growing and moving into different direction. And now you want the church to agree that you can part peaceably. There's nothing like parting peaceably. There's no marriage that is supposed to break. Marriage, we usually say it is till death do us part. You cannot break a marriage and say you are breaking a marriage and you and your wife, you and your husband have agreed to move on nicely. Hakuna kitu kama hiyo. There's nothing like that. There's no marriage that you're going to agree that you're going to move freely. You have agreed. You are not in, there's no animosity between you. Then unless there was no God there in the first place, unless there was no marriage, unless there was no relationship, unless the marriage that you did was fake. Because if you did what God said, God usually say it is till death do us part. So you cannot part before death separates you. There's no such a thing as my husband and I, my wife and I have agreed amicably to move in different directions to end the marriage. How? Are you God? God is the author of marriages, and he's the one that said that once a man and a woman are put together, nobody can put them asunder. The first marriage that was in Cana of Galilee, and the one that Jesus did miracles of converting water into wine, he was present. He was invited and was present. There's nowhere in the Bible where it is written or recorded that that marriage broke, because Jesus was manifest there. He ministered there. We never had. So you cannot tell me that anything that God has started can just end. God does not start things that end. It is us men who come and change the will of God and we put our own will. God will never push you or force you to follow his will. Our will and the will of God must align. Our will must be subject to the will of God. The will of God must always be supreme. It is our will, the human will, that must come and align and submit to the will of God, so that when our will and the will of God synchronize, then everything will work perfectly. There will be harmony and our things will work fantastically. We will soar into greater heights. So people of God, please, let us not get it wrong. Let us know that God is not a man that he should lie, and that his promises are yes and amen, and that whatever he establishes lasts. God does not change. He does not play games. He is the Lord of all. End of it. I'm a safeguarding officer, Jeff. I'll see you very soon. Please do not forget to subscribe.